Hello friends, welcome to our channel Explain Things Around, and today we'll continue more on instructions in C in our course Learn C Programming A to Z. So before we start, if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please click on the subscribe button. And so far we have covered a brief about C. We have learned about its usage. We came across its usage in industry. We learned about C alphabets. We learned about C words, type of words we have in C. We have constant, we have variables, we have keywords. We learned about type of instructions we can see in any C program, and those are like type declaration instructions, arithmetic instruction, process flow control instructions. And we also wrote a C program in our deep C++ IDE, and we learned how to compile and execute it, and we also learned where to see the errors if there are any. So let's continue more on instructions. We're learning creating and writing instructions in C. So today we'll continue about writing type declaration instructions and arithmetic instructions. So for that we will create one interest calculator project. We'll try to create one interest calculator software in C, and we'll see how to write the type declaration and arithmetic instructions, and we'll also see some of the keyword keywords and some of the important points along the way. So let's get into programming. Let's get into C++, dev C++. So we'll create a new source file. Let's name it as interest calculator, interest calculator. And since this is a C, so we'll select save as type C source file. Okay. So let me close this untitled row. Yeah. So we start with hash include studio dot h. So this line is for preprocessor. This is a preprocessor line. This tells compiler to include standard IO header file before getting into the program. Studio input studio dot s standard input output header file. That is our standard input output header file. And what it consists of definition of our functions like printf, scanf. These are standard input output functions. It consists the definition of those. After that we write void main. This is the entry point of our C program. Main is the entry point of our C program. From here the execution starts. So in any C program you must have the main function. So as we learned, C follows top-down approach. Any bigger problem is divided into number of small functions. But remember, you must have main functions in your program, because from there only execution will start, and there only we will be calling those different functions, other functions which you have derived to, which you have defined to solve the other problems. And after that, so we are here now, and we have, you see here void. This is the keyword, void keyword. It tells the function will not return any value. If the functions return any value, we need to give the data type of that particular value, what kind of data it will return. So since this function is not going to return any value, we use void here. Some people follow approach like int main, you might have seen. So if you notice that, so they will be returning some value in last, like return 0 some. So since we are not going to return in value, we will not use this int, and we are going to use void. So let's get into our program now. So what all we need to create interest calculator? We need principal amount, right? One thing, we need to know the rate of interest. We need to know the rate of interest. We need to know the number of years, for how many years we are going to calculate. And we are focusing now simple interest calculator. Let's be there. So and once we have all these inputs, we can easily calculate interest, and we can also calculate total amount, total accumulated amount. So these things we can easily calculate. Okay. So in C, before we use any variables, we need to define that. So these five will be our variable for this C program, for this interest calculator, for this simple interest calculator. So we need to define these variables in C before we start. So principal amount, let's give it as a float type, assuming the principal amount can have decimal in it. Or let's give it int only, whereas we'll give full amount in principal integer amount like 100, 200, 2000, 15,000. So let's take int for principal amount. For rate of interest, let's take this is float, assuming rate of interest can be in decimal 9.5, 10.5. So we'll define float for this, and number of year, let's give int for this also. And interest, definitely it can be in decimal, and total amount, this also can be in decimal. So let's give data type as float and int here for this. So this int, float, int, these are data type. So it defines what kind of the data will store whatever variable name we have given next to it. So for example, int principal amount, so it tells principal amount will store integer kind of data. So that's why in float these are called our data type. Another thing we learned about naming convention of variables, space is not a valid value. So let's name it something like principal underscore amount. Similarly for float, let's say it is rate underscore of underscore interest, and for number of years, let's say no underscore of year, and float, and now we have interest and total amount, those are fine. Another thing we learned, semicolon, this is our end of end of statement identifier. It tells compiler that this is the end of current line. So we have all the variables required. Now let's define the formula for interest. So interest is principal amount. Let's copy paste it so that we don't get any error related to typing mistake. So it is principal amount into rate of interest into number of years divided by 100 semicolon. So we have calculated our interest here, and total amount will be principal amount plus interest calculated. This will be your total accrued amount, total accumulated amount. So we have the variables defined, we have the formula given for the interest and total amount. So these lines are called type declaration instructions. These kind of instructions in C are called type declaration instructions because these are defining the type of the variables. Type of the variables we are going to use. Again, and next, interest, total amount. These two lines are our arithmetic instructions, because here we are performing some arithmetic operation. You can see here we are doing some in multiplication, division. These are our arithmetic instructions. So now we are ready here. So but what is missing here? So from where we'll get the principal amount, rate of interest, number of years? These values we need to get from the user. If we are getting the software, user need to insert these values. Okay, so let's give prompt for user so that he can give these values. Let's see, printf. So first we'll ask user to enter principal amount. Let's say please provide principal amount. So this is the approach we'll be following going forward. To learn more about C, we'll be learning by doing. We'll try to create some small softwares. We'll try to create some small utilities, and we'll see along the way what all are the important keywords, what all are the important features, and how we can utilize that, use that. So printf, this function will print on console whatever we have given after that in bracket. So it will tell user to print some to provide the principal amount. But after this only user will not be able to enter the value. We need to call scanf function also, so that he can enter the value, and we need to store that value in our principal amount variable. So principal amount is of integer type, so let's give format specifier here percentage d. This is called format specifier. It tells what kind of the value we are going to get from the user. So percentage d, and here we'll say ampersand principal amount. Ampersand is the address of. So whatever value user will enter, that value will store basically in memory at the address of this variable. So that's what this line specifies. So friends, guys, if you get any question during the during this video, you can put that in comment box below, and I'll definitely answer those questions. Maybe in the same chat box, or in the next videos I can create more videos on that to clarify. So from here we get the principal amount. Let's copy paste the same line to get other variables also. So after that we need to get the rate of interest. So let's call please provide rate of interest, and here we'll change the variable. We'll change variable to rate of interest. Also, one more thing we need to change, since this is float type, so format specifier will change from percentage %f to percentage %d. And next is number of years. So let's now we'll prompt for please provide number of years. We are using integer only for this, so we don't need to change the format specifier. We'll only change the variable. So by these three lines, user will be seeing on screen prompt for principal amount, rate of interest, and number of years. So once he has, so now we have the values in these three variables. So we can calculate the values of interest and total amount, and let's print that to user. Let's give these values back to user. So let's say print f, and we'll say interest calculated is, so interest calculated is a float type, so we'll say percentage f comma, here we'll give the variable name interest. So here we are not going to print address. That is the reason we are not using ampersand interest. We are going to use the value of the value of that particular variable. So we are directly giving the variable name. So remember, in printf we don't use that ampersand interest. In scanf only we are going to use that ampersand. And don't forget to give the semicolon end of line. And next is our, and see, I had written capital P, so make sure this that is not capital P, it is small p. C is case sensitive, so if you write capital P, that will throw you an error. Next we will return total accrued amount. That is your, that is also of real number, that is also a real number, so let's use percentage f colon here, and let's keep total amount the variable name. So we are done with our program. Let's save it. Let's compile it. So we see no error. Now we can execute it, and we'll get our software ready. Our small utility ready. Let's run it. So our program will get executed line by line. So first it got these variables defined. Now it is on the printf line. It printed please provide principal amount. Now on the scanf line, it is asking us, you see the small cursor blinking, so that is asking us to enter the principal amount. Let's enter 1000. Now again you got the next line, please provide rate of interest, and again one blink, so that is asking us to enter rate of interest, because it is line number 16, scanf rate of interest, that line. So now let's give 10.5 for example, and it is now next to the last number of year, let's say 1 year. You see here interest got calculated, that is 105, and total accrued amount is 1000 plus 105, 1105. You see after this decimal 105 dot 0.00000. So this is coming because we are using float type. So it will give up to that decimal, and we in our format specifier we can define up to what decimal we want to see the output, but since we are not doing it, by default it is giving us up to 6 decimal. So you can see here there is no space between what we enter, like see here, please provide principal amount and 1000. There's no space, it is not looking that good. Similarly, after interest calculated, if it total accrued amount, if that would have come on next line, that would have looked better. So let's make those changes. So what we'll do, please provide principal amount, we'll give one space colon and again one space. Similarly for interest, we'll give one space colon and one space. Similarly for number of years, colon and one space. And here once you have printed total interest, so we'll enter one new line. So let's see this backslash n, this is used to insert a new line on the screen. So we should be good now, and we can make it little bit more better. On top we'll try to write that this is our personal interest calculator. So let's say, let's keep the name star star star, this is our interest calculator. So we'll get some feel of like it's a kind of some software. So let's run it, compile. So you see some error we got here, please provide principal amount. So what kind of error you are getting? So we have used, so you see because you missed semicolon here, right? You can see here also expected semicolon before printf. So because of that you got the error during compilation. So let's save it and compile again. It should be good now, no error. Now let's run it. So our simple interest calculator is ready and it should be working fine. Okay, so one thing you notice, we should have given slash n, one new line character here also, so that this please provide principal amount goes to next line. Okay, we'll do that. So for now let's enter the values 10.5 1. So you see here it is coming in new line, so all those things are looking good. Let's fix this also. We'll keep slash n, slash small n, make sure, because this is case sensitive, C program is case sensitive. Let's compile now, no error. Let's run it. Yeah, looking good. Interest calculator, next line, please provide principal amount 1000, please provide rate of interest 10.5. Okay, so I missed point, so it is saying now 105. Okay, no issue. Number of year 2, so you earned interest 2100 and total accrued amount is 3100, so it is working fine. So our interest calculator is ready, and through this program we learned number of concepts like what is this hash include, studio.h. We learned about void, we learned about main function, we saw data type int float. We also learned about printf, scanf or format specifier. These are some important points, percentage d, percentage f, why we are using ampersand here in scanf, why we are not using ampersand in printf. So all these things we learned, and so stay tuned. In our next videos we'll explore more about this. We'll be back with some more small software you can say, or mini utilities, and we'll learn about C programs. So thanks for watching. If you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please don't forget to subscribe it. In that way you can support us. So thank you, thanks for watching.